Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's daily devotional. So, I have a short article for everybody today, and I don't mean to keep bringing up these particular topics, but these types of things certainly are in the news. But also, I'm not sure that we can be too prepared for things that are taking place in our society. So, I just want to emphasize that I'm not focusing on homosexuality or sexual immorality as if it's worse than anything else. I just want to make that clear. But it just seems like, especially recently, it just seems like there's more and more articles and so forth that have kind of popped up about it. But I wanted to mention this, especially for those of us who are parents or grandparents or aunts or uncles who have especially younger kids in the 14, 13 and under. So there's a show called Owl House, apparently. And it said the title of it, this is published 2 days ago, makes history with Disney's first bisexual lead character. So I'm not going to read the whole article, but what it boils down to is Disney's Channel's animated series, The Owl House, made history with the network's first bisexual lead character. Series creator Dana Terrace confirmed last week that the 14-year-old lead character Luz Nacida is bisexual. There's part of one of the episodes showed a relationship between Nacida and a female character named Amity Blight. She had expressed interest in male characters, but then asked out this girl to like a prom. Apparently, originally, when the show was approved, she says, I was told by certain Disney leadership I could not represent any form of bi or gay relationship on the channel. And she said, luckily, my stubbornness paid off, and now I'm very supported by current Disney leadership. Then she goes on to say, Disney has had a few openly LGBTQ characters, but they've primarily only been in minor roles. I didn't realize some of these. Onward showcased the character Officer Spectre, voiced by Lena Waithe, who identified as a lesbian. Andy Mack character Cyrus Goodman, played by Joshua Rush, had a character development realizing he was gay. And additionally, the Pixar film Out, which launched on Disney Plus, had a gay lead character. So most of us, I'm sure, are aware that Disney has been very, how should I say this, progressive in representing these different types of life choices, I guess we could say. And but the fact that some of these are becoming very mainstream, the fact that on the Disney Channel, for instance, that these are shows that I know my kids watch a lot of Disney Channel shows. And in the past, I haven't worried too awful much because I figured I'd hear about if there was anything major being represented that I didn't want my kids to see. And so this is really the first time, aside again from those other examples, that this is a kind of a mainstream show, I suppose. So first of all, there's two things I wanted to bring up about this. First of all, I want our parents, our grandparents, our people to be aware, so that maybe we check the programming before shows like this come on the air. If we're going to let our kids watch for an hour of Disney Channel, let's make sure that Owl House may not be a part of that hour. But the other thing that I wanted to mention is this is a 14-year-old character. So you kind of have a target audience here. You're looking at the tweens and early teens. And certainly our society has been pushing for children, who have absolutely no idea about anything regarding sexuality ultimately or naturally, from a young age, being taught that you can choose your gender, or you can choose your preference, and so forth, and that homosexuality is perfectly fine and okay. In fact, in some cases, it's even encouraged. This is obviously a problem that we as parents, grandparents, anyone who is a role model or an authority figure for our children, that we need to be aware of. And for, again, as I said, to make sure our kids are not exposed to these types of things and maybe don't understand what's happening or why are they doing that. But it also presents a very serious situation where, more so than perhaps at any other time in history, we're having to explain to our children, younger and younger ages, what homosexuality is. And again, their minds are not fully developed yet to really wrap their heads around what sexuality is, but we can teach basic understandings that, I mean, at school, I mean, some of our first, second, third graders are encountering friends who may have two daddies or two mommies. And being able to discuss with them and having to actually present to them these situations and help them understand what God's word says is vital, so that our children are not being normalized or I guess acclimatized to sin as if it's a perfectly normal or acceptable type of situation. Now, let me be clear. Neither should we allow lying or stealing or foul language to be normalized or allow our kids to be acclimatized to that either, where to the point where they don't even recognize it as being wrong. And that's the main thrust of this. We need to be able to identify sin, and we need to be able to identify things that are wrong and their bad influences. And we're having to equip our children younger and younger to be able to deal with this. And one of the passages I wanted to bring out, the passage I wanted to bring out for today, is in Deuteronomy chapter 6, starting in verse 5. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength. These words which I command you today shall be in your heart. You shall teach them diligently to your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, and when you rise up. He goes on to say in verse 9, you shall write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. And so this whole idea of teaching our children and making sure that that the newer generations are being taught to understand God's word. But the fact of the matter is, even though sometimes sexuality is not a comfortable topic for parents to discuss with their kids, we're going to have to learn to get over it, because at younger and younger ages, we're having to teach our kids maybe not all the graphic details, but certainly the basics. Whereas maybe in the past, a lot of kids may not have been taught regarding sexuality until maybe 15, 16 years old even. Nowadays, I mean, we're having to have the talk with our kids around 10 years old, sometimes 9 years old, sometimes younger, depending on what they're exposed to at school and what questions they have and so forth. And again, it's important that we are prepared, first of all, not only to protect our children by equipping them with knowledge. That's kind of the main focus here. It's not to shield them or protect them from society, because let's face it, we can't. The fact of the matter is, we'd have to kind of cloister up in some kind of corner of the world to avoid society. And that's certainly not what we're supposed to do. But we are having to equip our kids to know how to identify what's right and wrong, and to help our kids understand how to handle that. Certainly, we can be kind and loving while not approving of a person's lifestyle or a person's parents, two mothers or two fathers, that type of thing. But certainly we also need to make sure that we're keeping them from being exposed to things, especially before perhaps they're ready to fully understand what they're seeing, such as with our article today. All right, that's the daily devotional for you today. I hope that's something that's beneficial. And again, let me stress that I'm not singling out sexual immorality with a lot of these daily devotionals. It just so happens that some of these principles get kind of pop up in some of these articles. And certainly, this is but one example, okay, that of sin in our society, in our world, that our children need to be equipped to guard themselves against. Lying is another. Foul language, which our kids are being exposed to in elementary school, which in the past would not have been quite so prevalent. Types of discussions and jokes and things like that, that it just seems like our society's, the standard at which children are exposed to these types of things is simply lowering as the generations go by. So we have to protect our kids by equipping them, not protect them by shielding them necessarily, depending on their age, but by equipping them with knowledge, by helping them to identify and understand, here's what God's Word says about this. Evolution, let me be more specific, macroevolution is another example of that. Things that they might be taught in school about the age of the universe and all of these things that conflict with what the Bible tells us. And we need to be able to equip them to be able to stand and to remain faithful to God. All right. As I said, that's the daily devotional for you today. I hope that's helpful for everybody. Tomorrow we'll have another daily devotional at 6:30 p.m. So Lord willing, I will see you all then. Thanks.